I'm going to attempt to keep this video as short as possible. I say that because it's been brought to my attention that I speak slower than most people, and I can tell that's especially true when compared to most YouTubers.
Hello all of you little demons, Jules here for WhatCulture.com, back again with another episode of the awesomely...
That being said, there is just this short introduction. I think DayZ is harder than it has to be for new players, not just because the game itself is difficult, but because a lot of the controls are not made explicitly clear to a new player, especially for someone like me who was playing it for the very first time and playing it on a console for the very first time. Most video games have at least like a 10-minute tutorial that kind of, in some cases, makes you prove with checkboxes and objectives that you understand how to play the game, and then it unleashes the actual game on you. DayZ does not do that. DayZ kind of just drops you into a server and says, let's see what happens. I think a lot of the best parts of DayZ are discovered by the player organically, and I am not out to ruin that experience for anybody. This list is just things that I wish I knew much earlier than I eventually learned them. And full disclosure, one of the items on this list I literally learned last month, and I think that's a big part of what inspired me to make this video. You know, I'm still learning new controls hundreds of hours into the game, and I don't think that necessarily should be the case. I think that to learn the button prompts that I'm about to go over will not ruin the experience for anyone. And hopefully it just makes it better, and maybe a new player will learn some things that will make their entire experience more positive. And potentially there's players like me out there who have played for quite a long time and maybe don't know some of the things that I'm about to list. First up on the list is using your inventory menu to scan your surroundings. Most video games will make loot glow or put some sort of indicator or mark it on your map that you can pick an item up. DayZ is not interested in that, of course. It's very easy to miss loot. If you think you can't find anything in a house and you're relying on your eyeballs, you're probably wasting time looking for something, and you're also still likely to miss it. If you hold your inventory screen up in the top left, there is a vicinity category, and right there you can see those beans that I dropped on the ground show up there when it might be very easy to just walk right past them, and it's not as obvious that there's a little tiny item on the ground. Another added benefit to looking through the inventory screen is you can see inside items, whether it's an item of clothing or in this case my improvised shelter. The item itself will show up in the vicinity category, and then underneath it, anything that's inside of that item will also show up. So a pair of pants might look useless to you with the naked eye, but if you hover over it with your inventory menu open, you may find that there are bullets or something useful inside the pants. I think most players who have played for a while, we do it so subconsciously we don't even realize it. As soon as we enter a house, we pop up our inventory screen and run around, and we've probably memorized the places in each room that loot will spawn, and are going to go ahead and just run straight to those places with our inventory screen open. But I do think at one point we forget, that it wasn't that obvious to us that that's the best way to look around the physical space. The second item on the list is How to zoom in farther when you're using a scope, I think most players are instinctively going to understand the universal control scheme of pulling the left trigger to aim down iron sights or aim through a scope. If you have a scope equipped that allows you to zoom in an additional time, all you have to do is, while you're pulling left trigger and aiming down the scope, press right on your D-pad and you will zoom in an additional time, again, if your scope allows for additional zooming. Number 3 is another zoom command. In the first person, to zoom in further, which, as far as I can tell, makes no sense and is pretty immersion breaking, but also useful at the same time. Tapping L1 twice, a double tap of L1, that's the left shoulder button above the trigger, will, without any sort of binoculars or any good reason for it, allow you to zoom in. This works from the first person. I am not sure if it has any effect in third-person gameplay. Also, from the first-person point of view, number 4 hint is you can hold L1 and use the right joystick to look around independently of the body movement tied to your left joystick. Usefully, you can turn your head 360 degrees around. Doesn't make any sense, but useful. Number 5, double tapping triangle will unload a bullet that's been chambered in your gun. In my example gun of the SK, I can double tap triangle until the gun is completely unloaded. In a strange twist of fate, the unloaded bullets will end up in your inventory and not on the ground. Number 6, holding triangle will reload your gun. If you're using a gun that has no magazine, you need to have bullets that are not in a box. If you're using a gun that has a magazine, you will need a fully loaded magazine in your inventory and a magazine with fewer bullets in your weapon. Holding triangle will swap out the emptier magazine for the full magazine from your inventory. Number 7 is assigning items to the hotbar weapon wheel. From your regular inventory menu, hover over the item that you want to assign. In my example, we'll use the multivitamins. While you're hovering over the multivitamin, hold down the left joystick. It will bring up the quick wheel menu, and with the right joystick, select the slot you want to assign it to, and then press X. You can now bring up the quick bar menu by pressing right shoulder button, and then by selecting the multivitamins, it will quickly directly assign them to your hands. Number 8, using the up and down buttons on the D-pad to toggle between interactions. You may think you only can do one thing with the item in your hand, but if there are arrows by the command, you can toggle through them and you may have multiple options, especially when it comes to crafting. Number 9, pressing square twice enters throw mode, and when you're in throw mode, you can pull the right trigger to throw whatever is in your hands. And lastly, number 10 is crouch sprinting. Most players will probably figure out pretty early on that pressing the circle button will put them in the typical crouching you can't hear me stance, but it might not be obvious right away that you can sprint from this stance and still retain the stealth capabilities that you would have from slow crouching. This is so effective at getting past the zombies that I'm really not sure why anybody slow crouches anywhere. I don't think my list of 10 things that I wish I knew earlier is a comprehensive list of everything that a new player should know. If you have something in mind that you think belongs on this list based on the context of the things I did include, please comment them below, and hopefully a new player will benefit from knowing something that they probably should have known all along. As always, thank you so much for watching, and stay safe out there.